Hey everybody, I'm looking through my complete book of pickling again, and I showed you this book the other day when I did sweet and tangy grapes, which turned out really good. So I thought I'd look through here and find a couple more recipes. The pickles that I do have downstairs, other than the grapes that I made the other day, all seem to be like hot and spicy or dill pickles, so I wanted to find a couple of recipes to kind of round things out with maybe some bread and butter pickles or something similar to those grapes I did. And they do have a couple of recipes, and I got all of these little cucumbers, and I need to get them used, so I'm going to do that today. So anyway, what I did was I looked at the two recipes. One recipe calls for 6 pounds, one recipe calls for 8 pounds, but the beginning of both recipes is the same. So I just split it in half, and I've got 4 bowls, and these 2 bowls are going to be dedicated to the sweet and tangy gherkin slices. And the reason I've distinguished those is because this is a 4-day recipe. These 2 bowls are just going to be for some bread and butter pickles, and that you just have to let them soak the way they are, which I'll explain in a minute, for 8 hours. And then you can can them. So I will be able to finish these today, and I'll finish the video on those. Then we'll come back each day and look at what we do with those. So anyway, basically you take your cucumbers and you cut off about 1/4 inch off each end, and then slice them in about 1/4 inch slices. But I use one of those little crinkle cutters because I think it gives them a nice little texture, and they look kind of cool in the jar. And so I cut those up, put them in a bowl, and this is actually one recipe, but I don't have a bowl big enough, and certainly not for that either, so I had to divide it in 2. But it calls for cold water and 1/3 cup of salt, and so I split that evenly between the 2. And you just put them in there, you fill it with the cold water, kind of mix it up, and then lay a plate on top to hold them down in the water so that they really get a good soaking. And then you come back, these I'll be back in about 8 hours, and then we'll can those up, and there's a little recipe that you mix up and you can with them, and they're supposed to turn out real good. So these are going to be bread and butter pickles. And these, because I have to go to work tomorrow, I kept thinking today was Sunday, but it's Monday, so I have to go to work tomorrow, so I'm going to be getting up at about 4:30 or 5 to do part 2 of these. But I'll show you what I do when I do it. So anyways, I'm going to take these downstairs because they need to sit in a cool environment, and it's a whole lot cooler downstairs than it is up here. So when I'm ready to finish these, we'll be back, and then I'll show you the progress on those. Alright, I'm back for part 2 of the sweet and tangy gherkin slices. And so what happens with that is these have soaked in that cold ice water for at least 12 hours. It's been a little longer, but I'm going to get the rest of this done this morning, so tonight I can come home and do the other part, and then there's only one more part and we can count them up. But anyway, what you do is you take these out of the cold area where you have them, and you rinse them really well. It says to work in batches, but I have one of those cool strainers that goes across the whole width of the kitchen sink, so I'm able to put one whole bowl in there and use my sprayer and spray them off and make sure all that salt water is off of them. And then once that's done, of course, you rinse the bowl out, you put them back in the bowl, and then you cover them with boiling water. And I kind of, jostled them around a little bit to make sure that the boiling water got through all of them, and then you rinse them off, and so here they are ready to go. Now, this is when we're going to make the pickle juice for them, and what that requires is 7 sticks of cinnamon, because this should make about 7 pints, and there's a stick of cinnamon that goes in each jar. And then there's 3 cups of granulated sugar. There's a tablespoon of mustard seeds, which is right there. And then I have 2 tablespoons of whole allspice, which is right there. And 2 teaspoons of celery seed, which is right there, and 6 cups of cider vinegar. And remember, always keep in mind that vinegar, you need to always check to make sure that it's been diluted to 5% acidity, because I did pick up a gallon of cider vinegar that was only 4%, so that wouldn't have been good. So there's those pickles that we did yesterday. They're still setting, but anyway, I'm going to set this over here and we'll get this started. So there goes, in goes the vinegar. Turn the heat on, and then what happens with this is when it gets to boiling, you pour, there's the sugar, you pour it over the cucumbers in the bowls, and then you let them cool off, and then you put them again in a cold area and let them sit. there's that. There we go. Make sure all the sugar's dissolved. And then, of course, these are going to be another sweet pickle, but they'll be a different flavor than the bread and butter pickles that I just did. So, and the video is the same on both the bread and butter pickle and the sweet and tangy gherkin pickles, because I had all those cucumbers and the recipe started the same, so I just saved time and did one video to get them started. So I'm going to stir this until it gets to boiling, and then I'll be back with you. So I let the juice boil. It boiled for a minute, and now what we do is put it over the cucumbers and then let them cool off, and then after they've cooled, you put them in a cool area and let them sit for at least 12 hours. Of course, after you put this on and it cools, then you put one of those plate on the top like we had before to hold the cucumbers down into the liquid. So these are going to be really good. I can just tell. They smell good, and I think they're going to turn out pretty nice. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover these over and then store them away for another 12 hours. And then when I get home tonight is when I'll do the next part, which is adding more brown sugar. So I'll be back with you when I do that. I just wanted to show you what they look like after I've got the juice in there. And the cinnamon sticks are on there, and you can see all the little spices in there. And so those are cooling off, and when they're done, I'll put them away and put a little plate on top of them to hold them down. And then I'll put them in a cool place, and I'll be back. Hey, here we are for part 3 of our sweet and tangy pickles. And so part 3 is pretty simple. It's kind of like part 2, which is actually these parts are each a day. So on day 1, we scrubbed the cucumbers, did all that stuff, got it all in the cold water with salt and let it sit for 12 to 24 hours. Then came back on day 2 and rinsed them, drained them and rinsed them, and then made this this juice that goes, pickle juice that goes with them, and that was the, remember, cinnamon sticks, sugar, mustard seeds, allspice, celery seeds, and vinegar. Now, that has set, and you can see, now this is day 3, and these guys I rinsed. What I did was set them in a colander. I put like a big colander on this pot and drained those pickles out of the bowls, out of these bowls, and then rinsed the bowls and the little plates that were on top holding the pickles down in the juice, and rinsed the cucumbers, the little pickles, real well. And now I have the juice here, and what happens with that is we put 1.5 cups of brown sugar in there. Yes, these are going to be really sweet pickles, but hey, something different. So now all I have to do is stir this up and dissolve it, bring it to a boil, let it boil 1 minute, and then again we're going to cover the top of these and cover them with a plate and let them sit for 12 to 24 hours. And then we will be on day 4, and that's our final day. So when I'm done, got this to a boil and it boils for 1 minute, I'll be back with you and we'll finish this up for today. Okay, here's the juice, and it boiled for a minute. It's getting a nice, pretty kind of a brown color, and it still has all those little spices in it. And the celery or the cinnamon sticks are still in the little cucumbers here in the bowl, so you can see them. So now what we do is just pour this back over the cucumbers, and then put a little plate on them to hold them down like we did before. Let them cool, and then put them in a cool place for 12 to 24 more hours. And then when that's done, will be our final step. Kind of do about the same thing, except we're going to put them in jars and can them up. They're just boiling water cans, so they're not that big of a deal. But I think these will be nice. So anyway, that's what we're doing. It's kind of late. I went to a Casey Abrams concert tonight. My husband and I got to go to one that was kind of neat. He's kind of fun to watch. A little impromptu music periodically and some really good songs. So I never watched him on American Idol, but he's pretty fun to watch. Anyway, then I came home and I had to do my pickles. So we're going to get plenty of juice. Now actually there's going to be enough juice tomorrow night when we do this that what you do is you do just like we did tonight, where you rinse them and stuff, and then you add the 1.5 cups of brown sugar, only this time you let it cook for about 20 minutes until it boils down about by 1/3, and then you're good to go. So there we are. There's our little juice in there, and they're going to sit and absorb some more of that terrific flavor, and I will see you for the final stage. Okay, we're finally at day 4, and day 4 requires that you again drain the juice off of the cucumbers, the little pickling cucumbers, and then you put the drained cucumbers back in the bowl with the cinnamon sticks. You can see they're all in there because you're going to use those in the jars. And then you take the juice that you drained off, and it requires that you put in another 1.5 cups of brown sugar. So you're going to put that in here and then stir it up. Oh, got some on the side, that's fine. Anyway, stir it up and let it go for, it says to let it boil gently for like 20 minutes until it goes down by about 1/3. And so that should take about 20 minutes, which is perfect because while that's doing that, I've got my jars in here ready to be sterilized, and so they only have to go for 10 minutes. So by the time those are done and this is done, we'll be ready. And all you do is put a cinnamon stick in each jar, and I'm doing them in little pint jars, and then you fill them with the cucumbers to 1 inch head space, and then you put in this juice. I believe it's to 1/2 inch head space. Let me double check that. Yep, 1/2 inch head space. Remove all the air bubbles. Put it in the boiling water canner. Let it go for 10 minutes. And again, when that's done, take the lid off. Let it sit for 5. And then pull them out, and you have some beautiful looking pickles. So I'll be back for you when this has been boiled for about 20 minutes and it's boiled down by about 1/3. Alright, so the liquid here has boiled for 20 minutes and it reduced by about 1/3 as it was supposed to. And so what I've done is I took the little pint jars out of my my boiling water canner that I'm going to use for these pickles, and I went ahead and filled this jar. Now what you do is you see the cinnamon stick in there, you put one of those in there and fill it up with your pickles, and then you put the juice on it, which I'm going to do here. You fill up the actual pickles to about 1 inch from the head space, and then you put in the juice to about 1/2 inch, and I can see that there's a little bit of space down here around the base of that cinnamon stick, so I'm going to use my little tool and get the air bubbles out so that you can see all that space in there, and they'll settle down a little bit. You make sure everything on the top has liquid in it, and that looks good to me. So as usual, you want to mark off, oops, sorry, I totally just blocked you. Anyway, you want to make sure we wipe the rim of the jar here. Make sure that that's wiped off real good. And see if I can keep you up there. There, that's a little bit better. Put a flat on there. Put your ring on there. And I like to use my tool to get the right tightness on that jar lid. And there you have it. You can see the cinnamon stick. And we'll put it in there and see how it turns out. So I'm going to finish all these jars, put them in the boiling water canner, bring it to a boil, and let them go for 10 minutes. And I'll be back. Alright, there they are. I got 8 pints of the sweet and tangy gherkin slices, and I think they look terrific. I think the tops are popping. I boiled the water, canned them for 10 minutes, and then after the 10 minutes, let them set for 5. Take them out of the canner, and they're popping away, and they're sealing up, and I think they look like they're terrific. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you try this recipe, because it's a good one. Thanks for watching.